right, hello and welcome to our Greater Vancouver Zoom with Kat at the Greater Vancouver Zoo. So Kat, take it away.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for tuning in live at the Greater Vancouver Zoo. As Haley mentioned, I am Kat, and I work here at the Greater Vancouver Zoo. And I've got another special presentation today for you guys lined up. We are outside, as you see, and I'm standing right next to our donkey and miniature horse enclosure to my right. And over to our left, we have our capybaras, and that's who we're going to talk about today with our zookeeper, Ashley, who I'm going to introduce to you shortly. Now, capybaras, I'm going to let you guys know these guys are really cool animals. They are the largest rodent. So we're going to learn some fun facts from Ashley, and we can ask Ashley questions as well. It's really exciting when you do have a zookeeper here. Ask them all the questions they know about this animal that they take care of, or any other zookeeping questions. So I'm just gonna switch over my camera and I'll introduce you to our capybara. There he is there. We have Snickers, and we have Muscovy Ducks that also live with Snickers.
Dixie and Daisy.
We have Dixie and Daisy, that's our two Muscovy Ducks. And over in the rest of the enclosure, as you see, it's a pretty nice big one. We do have Mara, and they're another type of rodent. And we can ask our zookeeper all about Mara as well, even though they're not in the shot. So think about anything you want to know about a Mara, because they are pretty interesting animals too. They look like little kangaroos if you ever saw them before in the zoo. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to our zookeeper. We have Ashley.
Hi.
And she's going to talk to us about capybaras. Take it away.
Thanks. So welcome to my capybara enclosure. This is Snickers, and Snickers is a 5-year-old male capybara. Now, 5 years old doesn't sound very old probably for you guys, but for capybaras, he's actually about middle-aged. So it's almost like he'd probably be like your parents' age, maybe anywhere between mid-20s to 40s. And he's a pretty good boy, and she said that he's a pretty large rodent. Now, he is not only a very large rodent, he's actually the largest rodent in the world. The second largest underneath him would be porcupines. And the way to tell that he's a rodent, because all rodents share this quality, is they actually have teeth that will grow forever. So it's basically like rootless teeth. And what happens is he actually needs to chew on things constantly to wear those down. So if you've ever seen a beaver or a rat or a mouse, they are rodents, and they have the same feature. So you guys can see Snickers over there. He's checking out. He's got some alfalfa there. I did set up some bamboo. He came over and he was eating it, but as soon as you guys showed up, he got a bit shy. So Snickers is a very shy boy. He doesn't really like it to have people too close to him. So he's been pretty content with our zoo being close to the public. Pretty funny. And then over on the left there, we've got our two Muscovy girls. They are sisters. They are both born here, and they are turning 7 in July. Now, do you guys have any questions for me about capybaras or ducks or Mara?
So I see Rory has a question. Rory, what's your question?
How long can capybaras live?
Usually capybaras live anywhere between 9 to 10 years old. I've got a little bit more info if you guys want to learn a little bit more.
Sure, we'll do that. And then if you have a question, you can put your hand up and I'll watch for it.
So capybaras are rodents, and you guys probably know about mice and rats and beavers, right? But what you might not expect looking at a capybara is that these guys are semi-aquatic, which is a big fancy word that means they actually spend about half their life in the water. They're fantastic swimmers, and they'll spend a lot of time in their pond here that they have in their enclosure. And they actually will have their babies in the water. They actually will give birth in the water, and those babies are pretty good at swimming right from the beginning as well.
Do you guys have a question?
It was something to say about, I have a pet that I'm pretty sure is also a rodent.
What kind of pet do you have?
Gerbil. We have gerbils. They're
Gerbils
from
are
the
rodents.
family.
Right, so gerbils are rodents, so that is a pretty good connection. So could you imagine your gerbil growing to the size of that capybara in there?
Yes.
No, that would be kind of crazy. Hey, it's definitely not a small cage house pet. Lacey,
Oh, no.
Lacey, what is your question?
How did you get that? How did you get Snickers at the zoo?
Snickers was, I believe, born here. So I'm pretty sure Snickers has been here for his entire life. He was born in July of 2015. So in 2 months, he will be 5 years old.
How many of you guys are also almost 5 years old, or you are 5 years old? I can see a few 4 and 5 year olds in our audience today. That's great. Rory, did you have another question, bud? All right, Rory, what's your question?
Where do capybaras come from?
That's a fantastic question. So capybaras are a South American rodent. So they come from South America. You guys know where South America is?
I can show you.
Anybody
I have
know
a
where
map
that-
right behind me. So this right here is South America, and we are way up here in North America. This has never come in handy before, so that's cool. So there's South America, below North America.
Yeah, right there.
Some of them can also be found as high as Mexico, but they're actually mostly found in South America.
Michaela,
Okay,
do
everyone.
you have a question?
So,
Yeah.
What's your question, kiddo?
Can they put their head under the water?
Can they put their head underwater? Yes, they can. They're fantastic swimmers. They can actually dive quite deep into the water.
all right, guys. So that's okay. You guys can save your questions for capybaras if you want to keep thinking about it. Because not only are we going to talk about the cappies, but we also have another special guest that our zookeeper is going to show you. And this time we're going to go into the enclosure together and we're going to meet him. Are you guys excited to find out who we're going to meet? Yeah? All right. So am I. So we are now standing in the miniature horse and donkey enclosure. And here we are. So I'm just gonna jump over this wiring here. And we're gonna walk over and say hi to Bob, our donkey. We also have 2 miniature horses in the back lying down way over there. We've got Lips. Lips is one of our oldest miniature horses here at the Greater Vancouver Zoo. And this one that I'm walking slowly towards, who's grazing the grass, is we have Pearl. Now, these guys have a very interesting friendship. If we ever have to take, is it Lips out, I believe, or Pearl? The Pearl's the most important. So if we take Pearl out for a walk outside her enclosure, or she has to get her hooves trimmed, Lips and Bob have to follow her. They cannot be left alone. They love Pearl a lot. So she is the most popular female in this group here. So we have Bob here sniffing Ashley.
Oh yeah, he's a tiger.
He loves food. So I'm gonna put my selfie stick right down here so we get a good look. And Ashley's gonna tell us some more fun things about Bob or the horses.
Yeah, so we've got 3 animals in here. We've got Lips, Pearl, and this is Bob. Bob is a black burro. He's also a donkey. He's actually an animal that you guys would think of as going hee-haw, like a really loud noise. And he does that for me every single morning when I get down here. As soon as I park my vehicle, he is yelling because he is so excited for food. Yes, you're a nosy guy. And he also always knows I have treats in my pocket. So that's why he's standing right next to me. I've got some carrots for him today.
Ah, tricky.
He knows exactly what's going on. So Bob here is actually pretty old. He doesn't look very old, but he is about 21 years old. And you know what's crazy about that is he is actually the youngest animal in this enclosure. So Pearl over there, she's our dark brown horse. She is actually in her early 30s. And Lips is our oldest man here. He is the second oldest animal we have at the zoo. And we're actually not sure how old he is. Yes, Bob, we hear you. I'm sorry that we walked away. I know. But Lips is actually, we're not sure how old he is. He's anywhere between 40 to 45. Yeah, hi.
So the question is, how did we come to have miniature horses? Like back in the day, wasn't it like King Louis the 14th had miniature horses in his palace?
Yeah, you would look at a miniature horse and you'd say, why did that ever develop in the wild? But actually what happened is these guys were bred. So they were basically created as these fun, cute little animals. King Louis bred a lot of them in his own private zoo. But these guys were bred for a very specific purpose. So very, very, very long time ago, when people would work in coal mines, actually what they used to do is they used to get kids from the ages of almost as young as you guys, the 5-year-olds who've gotten there up to 10, would pull carts through these mine shafts. And it got to a point where they decided maybe we shouldn't be sending our children down there. And they actually bred horses this size. So these aren't ponies, these are miniature horses. They're slightly different. So they've got basically the same body proportions as a horse, but tiny. And so they were bred to pull those carts through the mines.
Very cool. Does anyone have any questions about miniature horses or donkeys or even the capybaras?
All right, so while you were talking, I checked the chat box, and there are a couple of questions in the chat box. So I believe this one was about the capybara. Do they have any predators? And if so, who are they?
Yep.
Predators?
Predators for the cappies.
Predators. Okay, so capybaras come from South America. So their most common predator would be things like jaguars and cougars. So kind of the big cats in the area, which we wouldn't see too much. Well, we have cougars here up in North America. Bless you. But we don't have so much jaguars, hey?
Yeah.
Yes, you're a beggar. And
Awesome.
any other questions?
So does anyone else have a question about either the donkey or the miniature pony or sorry, not miniature pony, miniature horses or the capybara or any other thing you may have a question about that these guys may be able to answer? Alexandra and then Rory.
My question is, what do they eat?
Which one?
The donkey.
The donkey? So these guys are herbivores. So they eat only plants, and they are grazers. So they eat mostly grass and also hay. And he also gets a lot of treats of apples and carrots because he's pretty spoiled. Does that answer your question?
Yep.
Okay. Rory, and then I see Hars has our hand up, and then B1770, you also have your hand up again, so I'll call on you. So Rory, Hars, and then you again. All right, Rory.
What do capybaras eat?
What do capybaras eat? That's a good question. They are herbivores as well, actually. So they eat hay and they eat alfalfa, which is kind of like a different type of hay that we actually can't feed the horses because it's a little bit too rich. And they also will eat things like tree leaves and bamboo. So they actually are in the same category as horses. They are herbivores. Yes, hi.
All right, Hars is what the name on your screen says. You can tell us what your name is.
What did the horses eat?
What are their names?
Eat.
Oh, what do they eat?
Yeah.
They are herbivores. So they eat grass mostly. So you can see Pearl there. She's eating some grass right here in our enclosure. They also get hay, which I give them 3 times a day. And in the morning, they'll actually get a special type of pellet. So they love their pellets that have all sorts of other nutrients in them. They also get carrots and apples as treats. So Bob is sticking near me because he knows I've got carrots. Right, Bob? Oh, yeah.
Awesome. B1, do you remember your question this time?
How fast can they run?
These guys can't run as fast as other horses, but they can still get up there. Oh, that's the one that I can't remember off the top of my head. Oh, it doesn't touch nose. That's very cute. Sorry, getting distracted by my animals. They're very adorable. So these guys are pretty fast, but they're not as fast as wild horses or those larger horses that can almost go as fast as like 30 kilometers an hour sometimes. These guys are not quite as fast, but I can't remember the exact number. That's a good question. I'll make sure that I have the answer for that next time someone asks me that.
Awesome. So we have Isla and then Teresa and McKinley. Marla's phone. I can't remember. McKinley, right? Okay. So Isla and then Teresa, then McKinley again. Isla.
take Pearl out to do what you need to do without without the other guys coming if they want to come?
Well, that is the tough part. So sometimes we have to take Pearl out of the enclosure in order to weigh them. And it's very difficult because they are so attached to each other. So what we have to do is we actually have to take all 3 of them. Anytime we do anything, it's actually a little bit ridiculous sometimes. So we'll put them on a halter and a lead. So it's almost like a leash that's made for horses. But if we take her, Lips and Bob are both going to be very upset. So we actually have to take both of them as well. And if we take Bob out, Pearl will get upset. So then we have to take Pearl. But if we take Pearl, then Lips will get upset. So we always have to take all 3 of them. They love each other a lot.
They seem a little high maintenance there for you.
They kind of are. Oh my God.
All right. Teresa's phone there. Teresa.
It looked like your oldest pony or small horse, miniature horse, was limping. Did he get injured?
They could get injured. That's why I always pay attention to what they're doing. He wasn't limping. He just got up. And sometimes right after he gets up from laying down, he can be a little bit sore. So as you can see now, he's pretty good. His joints just get very stiff because he's a very, very old man. No, I'm not talking about you. You're fine.
All right. McKinley, what's your
question? Get sensitive. No, I didn't say that.
How fast can Snickers run?
How fast can Snickers run?
How fast can Snickers run? Snickers can run pretty fast. Not as fast as these guys, though. Oh, gosh. Those are the one things that I don't actually know is how fast my animals can run. I got to do my research. You guys are really quizzing me.
Yeah, here at the zoo, guys, we don't really take note on how fast our animals run because they're very comfortable in their environments. They don't get up to their top speeds because they know there's no predators that are hunting them. So they're quite comfortable and content just living in peace in their enclosures, not to worry about getting to those types of speeds.
Awesome. So there's another one, B1770. What is your question? You got it?
My question was, how much different kind of donkeys? How much different donkeys?
How many different types of donkeys are there?
Yeah.
That's a good question. There are a lot of different types of horses, I know that, but donkeys. There are definitely quite a few, because there are some types of donkeys that are actually still wild. So this is not a wild species of donkey. He's actually known as domesticated. So domesticated basically means that he has been raised, like their species have been raised by people for a very, very long time. They're very used to being around people. They're very good with people. So he's kind of the type you would find on a farm. But otherwise, I do know that there are many other types of donkeys. Although I don't know the exact number. Wow, you guys are really good at asking questions. You're really making me think.
Sometimes when we ask questions, we end up with just more and more questions and not as many answers.
Yeah, I like that though, because then I know what I've got to learn still.
Exactly. And there are lots of ways for the kids to find out those answers on their own too. They can get their parents to help them research on the internet or check out some really good videos on these animals as well and perhaps find their answers as well. Rory has a question. Rory, what is your question?
Where are the horses from that you have?
Where are they from?
Yeah.
Like where in the world?
Like where in the world?
Oh, where in the world?
Where in the world? Okay. That's kind of a weird question just because this type of miniature horse is a domestic species, so you actually don't find them in the wild. They're bred by people. But I do believe they were first bred in Europe. So I guess you could kind of say they're a European animal. But these guys are found in farms and stuff like that. So you technically wouldn't find them in the wild. Lips and Pearl, though, actually, before they came here to the zoo, were someone's pet before they came here. And the reason why we don't know Lips's age is because when they brought him in, he was already a pretty old man, and they didn't really know how old he was. So we just assumed that he was kind of in 10 to 15, and that was about almost 30 years ago. So he's that's why we have no idea how old he is.
All right. B1, do you have a question?
Did you find them or did you just catch them?
What?
Did you find them or did you catch them? Basically, where are they from again?
These guys were someone's pet before they came here. So somebody else owned them. They would not have been found in the wild. So they were born probably on a farm somewhere. And those two were, I do know that they were surrendered. So someone had them as pets, and they got to basically be too much work. So what they did was they brought them to the zoo. And the same thing, I believe, happened with Bob, but I'm not exactly certain which place he came from. Right, Bob?
All right, so this is my one last call for
He's
questions.
coming over to say hi.
We are going to need to wrap up. Does anyone have one last question for us before Kat wraps up with us here?
You have a question for Bob?
Does anyone have a question for Bob?
Is Bob going to answer us if we ask the question?
I don't know.
Or does he really have one answer?
I mean, he's listening pretty intently right now.
Yeah, he really likes the phone.
Yeah, he really likes the phone.
He did for a second.
Chili knew that he could need it.
It's not made of carrot.
Not made of carrot, guys.
Rory has one last question for us here. So Rory, what is your question?
What do donkeys eat?
Donkeys are herbivores. So herbivore is a big fancy word that means they eat plants. So he's going to be mainly eating things like grass, which you can see we've got a lot in our enclosure, as well as hay and some treats of maybe carrot and alfalfa. And we give him pellets every morning, which is basically just all the minerals and nutrients that he needs.
Awesome, thank you. So Isla has a question that she's written in the chat box. She just wants to know, how long can miniature horses live? Because you have a very old horse. So what is the life expectancy of a miniature horse?
So horses are pretty interesting. So usually when you have a horse, if you're working your horse, you will retire them around 16 to 20. So that's when you stop doing all the hard work, where they stop kind of being ridden and stuff like that. And then they have a life expectancy of about 35 to maybe 40. So Lips is ancient. He's like, if he was a person, he'd be 110 years old. He is very, very old.
Awesome. So McKinley, I see your hand up and you're going to be our last question for today. But boys and girls, if you do have more questions, you can write them in the box, or this afternoon, I will also post this video on Facebook, and you can ask your questions in those comments too. And then I can get them to Kat as well for next week. So McKinley, what is your question?
Do you bathe your donkey?
Do you bathe the donkey?
Do I bathe the donkey? I do not, but I brush him at least every day. Because as you can see, he gets pretty dirty. But right after I brush him, he does like to go and roll around in the dirt. So I think he likes to be dirty. We don't usually bathe them. We might bathe them every few months, but it's a pretty big operation. Because you can see, I've got no horse shower in here for them to use. So we'd actually have to take them to another barn. And if we take one, we've got to take all three.
All three of them would have baths.
We should do that soon. That would be fun.
Donkey and horse baths? Yeah, why not?
Donkey and horse baths.
Be quite a show.
Be an interesting behind the scenes there for that one.
Right?
So, Kat, thank you so much for being here with us today. Do you have any last thing you want to share with us before we head out?
No. So next week's lineup we have at 10:30. I'll be most likely, if the weather's nice, I might be outside on Tuesday with another keeper lined up. Also Thursday, if the weather is nice, we might be going for a walk with an animal, but we can't guarantee anything due to weather, right? So we always go based on weather when we are working with our animals or our zookeepers about their time. So yeah, tune in next week and we'll see what surprise I have in store for you.
Perfect. So we know for sure we'll be here at 10:30 on Tuesday and 1 o'clock on Thursday, but the animals that we will see next week will be a surprise. So boys and girls, say thank you to Kat, and the Zookeeper say thank you, and we will see you all next week. Thank you, Kat.